What's more efficient than expanding relationships you already have, securing retention with relationships you already have, and using those in order to power your new business motion by creating loyal advocates?
Hello and welcome to the Healthtech Marketing Podcast, brought to you by Health Launchpad and HIMSS. I'm Adam Terminus. I'm your host for today, and I want to give a big thank you to you for listening or watching. And I also want to give a big thank you to my partner in crime here, HIMSS, who makes this possible. It's this is, I think, episode 27. So been at it for a year now and still going strong. Today, I'm really delighted to introduce an awesome guest, Natalie Cunningham, who is the Chief Marketing Officer of Terminus, the ABM platform for over 1,000 companies. And we're going to have a big discussion about ABM, GTM, and all things to do with three-letter acronyms, no doubt. So Natalie, welcome to the show. How are you? Tell us about yourself. Tell us about Terminus.
Fantastic. Thanks for having me, Adam. I am excited to talk about all the acronyms, my favorite ones as a B2B marketer. That's how we live our lives, right? Exactly. So I am a longtime practitioner, now on the MarTech side. So I kind of came up through the ranks actually as a consultant, worked with a lot of clients in health tech. So really excited to talk to your audience today about this. And then made the jump over to the client side a few years back, landed at Terminus a little under a year ago, and have been heading up their marketing organization since then. So Terminus, if you aren't familiar, was actually one of the original pioneers of the ABM platform movement. And so account-based marketing has been around for a while, but we were one of the first vendors. And where we see ourselves today is, while we are an ABM platform, what we do is we help B2B go-to-market teams drive more efficient pipeline and revenue. And we do that with the most native channels of any ABM platform, the highest rated B2B advertising solution, and a combination of third-party and first-party data.
Excellent. Great summary. So you focused in on the word efficient, and that seems to me to be a kind of a change in the way that you're positioning the company. Tell us about what's behind that.
Yeah, I think it is, the way I would phrase it is it's more of a re-emphasis on what really were the roots of the creation of Terminus and continue to be our North Star today, which is, if you really think about the purpose of account-based marketing, it is about spending your time and your resources, your dollars and your team members in the direction that's going to get you the most value. It's about improving return on investment. It's about making sure you're not spending your effort on tactics and on leads that aren't going to convert. And so really efficiency is the promise of ABM if you're doing it well. And so as the pioneer in that space, and as the ones that we believe have the most effective channels, but also the most channels to engage your customers, we really have a compelling story around efficiency. And then if you look at the market today, man, oh man, are we at a tipping point, right? With the economic situation where it is, but also after 2 years of a global pandemic, we are no longer in a growth at all costs mandate. Every marketer I talk to in B2B is in an efficient, predictable growth mandate. Mm-hmm. And we happen to have a solution to that. So we're really leaning in there.
That's fascinating. That's really interesting. I mean, I just think, in simple terms, when I explain to clients that are new to ABM, I give an example of just switching on intent data with some SDRs and, showing that within a couple of days, they'd already seen that they already identified an opportunity. And literally within a space of a couple of weeks, all of the SDRs start their day by focusing on who's in market. So showing intent, who's in market. And that's what and the reason is because it doesn't necessarily mean that they're easy, that, somebody's showing intent that they're going to pick up the phone and talk to an SDR more likely. but what they find is when they get them on the phone, they're much more interested. And so it's helping that organization, to your point, focus on where there's the greater chance of conversion, a much more efficient way of doing it. Very interesting. So talk about tipping point, ABM. I always sort of struggle with this because ABM, people have been talking about it for 10, 15 years. And the adoption is, you've got over 1,000 customers. I think the other leaders in the market probably together, maybe in total its penetration is 3, maybe 5,000 companies. Whereas HubSpot, not ABM, but still, one of the leaders in MarTech, 100,000 customers. So, is it that ABM is only going to get adopted by a small number of number of companies, or is it that we're actually at the tipping point of this thing really accelerating?
Oh gosh, that's such a good question. I have a lot of opinions about this, but I will first say that I have no crystal ball. Just because I happen to be the CMO at Terminus, I do not know exactly what the market's going to do. From my experience and my view on the market, I think it's a couple of things. So I do think that an account-centric revenue motion, you can call that ABM. Some people call them target account plays. Some people call it account-based experiences. That's okay. As marketers, we try to brand everything. If you're focused on the account and you're focused on prioritization and efficiency, that's what we're talking about. That's what ABM is. I do think we are at a tipping point where we're going to see more growth and much more adoption over the course of the next 12 to 24 months. And I think going back to my prior point about an efficiency mandate, I think that that's the reason. I think that we are no longer in a world where we can throw money at a lead problem and hope that they convert. I think in most industries, in particular in tech, that is no longer an option. And so we just have to focus on prioritization. The other thing I believe to be true is I believe that there's a big difference, and this may sound crazy coming from a CMO of an ABM platform, but I believe there is a big difference in purchasing a piece of technology and practicing a methodology. I believe that there are a lot of marketers that are doing a version of ABM and have not yet made the decision to purchase a platform, are doing what I like to call digital duct tape, a combination of their marketing automation platform and maybe some set of ad tools that they already have access to, and some spreadsheets and duct tape and bale wire to pull together an ABM program, because they haven't been able to make the investment in a platform. I think we might be at a tipping point for that as well, where we don't have the resources and marketing teams to be able to continue to do that. If the mandate is efficiency, we might see more people investing in a platform to make that more powerful and scalable.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I work with a lot of clients that are not yet either at the, they're not yet at the revenue level where they can afford the investment in not just the software investment, but the time, the resources that go with it to adopt an ABM platform. But they're sort of adopting the processes, and we're creating kind of manual ways to do it. And what you find is that you get to this point where essentially it's working, it's too kludgy. Let's take the next step. Let's go get Terminus. Let's go get that thing set up, and suddenly then you can really start to scale it. And I think I agree with you. I think that's the way it's going to move. You've got experience in health tech. I kind of get the sense. And I say this, and I really would say I haven't surveyed it, but I do think it's true that health tech is a bit behind other sectors of technology and other B2B sectors in terms of adoption of ABM. What would you say to a health tech marketer and why they should take the step? A, take the step towards ABM, and B, really start thinking seriously about considering an ABM platform?
I tend to agree. I'll say I think that health tech is a little bit behind, but really what I think they're behind are the loudest industries. So if we see those high growth software companies, they talk about their transition to ABM. They are a bit more vocal about their transformation and their innovation in their marketing strategies. They may be the minority in terms of that early adoption if you look at those numbers again, right? Mm-hmm. I think health tech is probably in line with a lot of other industries that are starting to make that change now. And so my point to them would be, and has been over the years as I've helped health tech companies make this transition when I was a consultant, is you are, in most cases, there are exceptions, you are in such a perfect go-to-market situation for ABM. ABM is not a one-size-fits-all. If you have a very low dollar sale price, if you have a very high volume transactional sale, ABM might not be the right strategy for you. You might want to look at a PLG motion, or you might want to look at something that's going to be a little bit lower cost of acquisition.
What do you mean by PLG?
A product-led growth program that might be a little bit less heavy on the sales side, a little bit less heavy on the investment on the upfront, because it might be easier to grow through your user base. But if you have a complex buying committee, if you have a pretty well-known set of target accounts, you can identify all the hospitals you're trying to sell into, which you know you can, or if you have a large average sales price or long-term contracts, ABM is a fantastic play. And health tech tends to fall into that category. Yeah. So where in other industries, sometimes we're trying to help them decide if ABM is the right choice. With health tech, I default to 90% of the time, I think it's probably going to be the right choice for those three reasons. Yeah. The reason I would say a platform is because you may already have a relatively known audience. Where a lot of other industries would really have to focus on figuring out who their target accounts are, your focus needs to be on how you scale personalized engagement to those target accounts. And a platform is the best way to do that, in particular Terminus.
So for people who are listening who may not be familiar with what that looks like, so when you say personalized engagement, give us an example.
Yeah, so a great example might be utilizing, you mentioned intent data earlier, so let's use that as an example. It might be utilizing intent data signals to prioritize your target account list by the topic that they're interested in relative to your solution. Give them ads through the Terminus platform or whatever ABM solution you decide on that is unique to that topic so that it's very relevant to what they're researching or unique to that persona within an account and what they would be most interested in. And then flow that personalized content through your chat, which is a part of the Terminus platform. Your email signatures is a great way to capture first-party data, right? Through all your channels, really creating a more personalized conversation at the persona and account level using things like intent data.
I see. Yeah. Another example I heard the other day is somebody actually, I think he's left the organization, but he was a CMO of a health tech software company that is a Terminus customer. And they were using, I think, a different personalization tool integrated with Terminus. And what they would do is when the SDRs would see a target a target account that was in market, they would create a customized page, and that page would then follow the account the whole way through the sales pipeline. And so they would use it for communication. Initially, it was sort of educational. Then it was, much more about conversion. And then I think, that potentially could then, as you then transition into onboarding, it then could become possibly a place to get that started. So very different way of approaching it. So that's very good.
That's a great example and something we see happen a lot. As something Terminus utilizes for ourselves is we have a web personalization tool. And so we'll do that often for our large target accounts as they're in pipeline. And they can even have their individual sales rep that's there available on the chat for them to talk to. So it's really a custom experience.
That's amazing. Actually, the other thing that he described, which I thought was so cool, was he said that what would quite often happen is that the champion would then say, it's that's our page, and would use it internally for selling to the rest of the organization, which is like, when you've got that going on, you're in good shape. Basically, the champion uses that personalized page as a sales tool. Cool. So, for a lot of companies, in fact, we had somebody on the podcast a few weeks back who's been through they're about 3 years down the ABM journey. I think they're into their third year. And it was just very helpful sort of to see that journey. I mean, can you paint a picture for anyone listening to this about what does year 1, 2, and 3 look like?
Yeah, I mean, if you're starting from scratch, so I'll give you a picture. I think often we potentially oversimplify the view, and everybody's journey is different. But I'll give you a single picture. I think for most organizations in your first year, your primary focus is proving value. You're doing a proof of concept, whether that is a small pilot with a couple of SDRs or ADRs and a couple of salespeople or one segment, and you've decided to attack this small group of target accounts together. Or if you're trying it in a certain region, starting with proving value of this thing. I would highly recommend you start there before changing everything in the way you go to market and your revenue motion. Usually that's going to be most of your first year. Your scale of your pilot can change over the course of that first year, but you're going to spend a lot of time educating, evangelizing. You're going to spend a lot of time hands-on working on these target accounts together with sales and with the SDRs. Yep. And just seeing what works for you. And then in your second year is when you typically start getting into expanding potentially to your entire sales organization. Certainly a great opportunity to start expanding into your post-sales organization, to start talking about what does ABM look like with our CX org, with our existing accounts for retention and expansion. But it's also a great time that you start thinking about, okay, how do we expand our channels within these programs too? Maybe I started with some display advertising and some SDR outreach and a couple of cadences. That's probably it at the beginning. Yep. Start small. And then you start expanding what you're doing in marketing and across the revenue flywheel. And then by the third year, it should really be your business as usual. Right. What we want to see there is the way we go to market, the way we align as a revenue team is an around account-centric approach. Maybe we also work inbound leads when they come into us, but that's second fiddle. We put our focus on our target accounts because they're the ones that we know to be the best accounts for us, and we work it together as a team as default. I even heard at a conference recently an example of a ABM practitioner that's in about her third year, I think maybe coming up on fourth, where they described it as a premium offering that they literally have salespeople applying their prospects to be a part of, because it is a privilege to be able to have them get the budget and the time and the resources from marketing that a target account gets.
Wow, so they're auditioning the prospects. That's very cool. Wow, I've never heard that before. That's very exciting. But by the way, you introduce a concept there which is not necessarily, it may not be familiar to a lot of people, and that's the notion of using the principles and the tools and techniques of ABM to apply to your existing customers. And I think that there's a lot of confusion in the market with some people that maybe ABM is just like it's a new way of doing sort of targeted advertising, and it's much more sort of about new customer acquisition, whereas you as you described there, it is as much about how you grow your existing customers as how you acquire customers in the first place.
Absolutely. And I think that you're you're spot on when you say for many people, ABM might equal more targeted advertising. And I'm not a purist. I won't say you have to do these certain things for it to be ABM. Everyone has their journey. It takes time to transform. But I do believe that ABM absolutely has value around the entire revenue lifecycle. In particular, if you think about ABM as a way to have efficient growth, what's more efficient than expanding relationships you already have, securing retention with relationships you already have, and using those in order to power your new business motion by creating loyal advocates out of those accounts.
Yep,
we really think of it as a flywheel at Terminus, and lean very heavily on our existing accounts for ABM.
Yes, exactly. And that's the notion of creating, customer evangelists that will, advocate on your behalf. And that's such a powerful thing. Actually, just as a weird aside, this dreadful thing that's happened to Silicon Valley Bank, right, which is essentially the government's taken it over. One thing that amazes me is that you go back to 2008 and what happened in the financial markets then, you wouldn't have had too many people saying nice things about any of the big banks at that point. I've seen a lot of people, and people I really respect, sort of real influencers, going out and explaining the situation of what's happened to Silicon Valley Bank and advocating for them. And I just bring that in as an example of I guess that some of them are actually Silicon Valley Bank customers. It's like, if you can get a customer to say nice things about you and explain a negative situation unsolicited, you've got a really strong relationship and a really strong business. Yeah, especially for a bank. Yeah. So 3-letter acronyms. So ABM sort of has been a hot acronym for quite a while. The one that's become another hot acronym of late, and it seems to be on everybody's website and everybody's vernacular, is GTM. I know it's go to market. What does that now mean? Because it used to mean something different, and to be honest, even I'm a little bit confused about what GTM means.
I think that you are not alone in that.
Thank you.
Like everything, I think I said this earlier, we in B2B sure like to put a brand on something and smack a new name on it and call it something new. Personally, this is how we define go-to-market at Terminus. It's how we utilize it with our customers as a part of their ABM strategy, because to me, they're inextricable. But we also use it for ourselves within my leadership team. Short version, it's what you sell now and in the future. It's who you sell it to. It's why they should care. And it's how you sell it.
Okay.
So the way I use it is the connective tissue between my product roadmap, my marketing strategy, my sales motion, and my customer experience. All those things need a North Star. That's your go-to-market.
I see. Got it. So it's the integrate. So it's upper level, right? So ABM is B2B marketing is becoming ABM. That's just one pillar. The other pillar is your product strategy. The other pillar is your customer experience. And then I guess sales strategy is probably part of that too. GTM is the essential. I love the notion of connective tissue of all of that. It's all of that sort of essentially meshed together. Got it. Okay, that's very helpful. Now I get it.
I may not be the world's most foremost expert on it, but agree. We've been talking about it for a long time, and now it is just coming up everywhere, and everyone does have different definitions. I tend to be a pragmatist. So to me, that is a pragmatic description of what I need go-to-market to be successful. And then ABM, to me, is a methodology that aligns to certain go-to-market strategies.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, exactly. That really helps, actually. Thank you. I've really learned something today. So So Natalie, looking ahead, what's some of the things that you can see coming down the pike that get you really excited?
Yeah, I know you probably want me to say something like Chat GPT or Web3 or one of these exciting tech ones. Okay, good.
Please don't say generative AI.
Good, because I'm not going to say that.
Good.
So it's actually good that we had the go-to-market conversation right before this, because to me, what I'm most excited about is the evolution of the marketing org as the leader of the go-to-market strategy. In recent months and in the last year or so, what I believe I've found in conversations with our customers and talking to the market is marketers, in particular CMOs, are in a unique position to connect all of those dots between what the market wants, what the customer needs, where you're going, and how you drive efficient revenue with both net new customers and existing. Like, they are really the only ones in the organization that are start to finish customer experience, their internal and their external. And I'm really excited about the evolution of this CMO role and to see what happens. What kind of roles do we hire in a marketing org if we truly put them as the captain of the go-to-market strategy? How do our resources and our mandates change if we are not seen as the marketing org that owns brand and demand, if we are really seen as the driver of this corporate level go-to-market strategy?
That's fascinating. Yeah, that's a very provocative idea, and I can see that. And in the context of what GTM is, that makes a lot of sense. It really does. Very interesting. I'm gonna have to think about that one some more. Cool. All right. So, Natalie, I'm going to ask you the question I ask all our guests, and that is, if you could go back in time, if you could get in the Back to the Future DeLorean and go back in time and give yourself one piece of advice, what would that be? Okay.
And so, assuming it's not financial advice to make some early investments.
Yeah, no. The way you can always do, they say, invest in Microsoft. No.
Back to the Future reference, I'm thinking about his sports bets. I think the biggest thing for me is I wish I had started earlier learning more about the business of business. And by that I mean, for many years in my career, I was really focused on understanding all the pieces and parts of marketing and how those puzzle pieces fit together to be more strategic to achieve a marketing objective, which is great. Mm-hmm. But in the absence of understanding the financial world of business, in the absence of understanding sales and CX and HR and ops, it really is much less meaningful, and it doesn't prepare you as well to be certainly at the executive table. And so I think that has been my biggest learning, is the time I spend with my CFO, the time I have spent understanding profit and loss statements and how marketing really can be a lever for business success, not just a pipeline number or revenue number even, has been invaluable. And I would start that earlier.
That's a great insight. Yeah, I so agree with that. Took me a while to see that I needed to do that, and it took me a while to, make progress on that. It's a very good insight, and I hope anybody, who's at the early stage of their career, hears that, because I think that's a great piece of advice. I was really looking forward to having you on the pod today, because I knew you were going to have lots of interesting things to say, and you really got me thinking about some interesting things. So I want to thank you so much for your time and for your insights today. Really appreciate having you on the show today, Natalie.
Absolutely. Thanks for inviting me. I'd be welcome to come back anytime.
Great, excellent. So before we go, I just want to let you know that if you're listening to the podcast, you can see us. We actually this on YouTube as well as on the pod. And if you're watching it, you can subscribe to this podcast on any of your favorite podcast channels. And we've got lots of other guests coming up. But if you're out there listening, you've got an idea of somebody, email me at adam@healthlaunchpad. And also, if you like this podcast, tell 2 friends about it. So thank you again, Natalie, and see you on the next one.